Good day, everyone. I greet you with your time, wherever you may be watching from. Africa continent has been in third world class. This is a continent that was actually meant to be great in different aspects of life and sectors. Their way of life, ranging from the unique agricultural profession, their marriage traditions, their dress codes, their unique foods, and their human resources and intellects have been wonderful from onset. In this interview with also Dr. Ferdinand Anikwe, PhD, Director of Culture and Cultural Dialogue, Godfrey Okoye University, a former DG, Center for Black and African Arts and Civilization, gave an insight into the greatness of Africa. Sit back and enjoy this knowledge-packed expository session. The question I want you to attend to this morning is bordered on the way of life of African people. In those days, it is no longer the same thing today, particularly when you look at marriage and profession, which is basically agriculture.
You want us to go back to history as to the way of life of a people is their culture. The way you live, how you create things, your dressing patterns, your culinary art, your food system, the way you do things, that is the way we do our things is our culture. And that is the way of life of our people. But the truth is that earlier than now, African leaders and African people generally had respect for elders. Their life was based on truth. And again, the issue of getting married, because marriage is an institution that gives culture its face, its name, its definition, and whatever. Because people come out of marriage. You do not meet a woman, the usual African culture. Nobody gets married by knowing the girl earlier. You do not just you don't just see a woman before marriage. And there is always somebody that goes in between who will tell you about the family of the girl you are going to marry. And at the same time, the family of the woman will also inquire about the family of the man. Marriage has been thorough. It has been a thorough, properly set out institution in pre-colonial Africa. Wow. Therefore, marriage constituted very important institution that gave rise to some growth in socio-economic development of all African societies. And most importantly, the fact that this marriage defines primary, pre-primary, primary, and call it post-primary education, which have all been done informally. The woman did a lot of primary and primary education with the children. And men, when grown, would also learn a lot in the process of learning by doing. That's why going to the farm, climbing palm trees, craft development, those who were into technological inventions like the people of Obo, these were crafts developed by their forefathers, which had been inherited by the children by the process of apprenticeship. Not to say you will pay, because you going to the farm, your father will tell you how to till the soil, how to plant the yams, how to plant other crops. And the yam had been the main crop and the chairman of every other crop within either the farm or the barn. Therefore, yam was respected in most African societies. Therefore, the farmer was not just a farmer, he was a farmer, he was a teacher, he was also a doctor. Admittedly, there were some people that specialized in some kind of medical practices that researched into the works of the herbs, the leaves, and of course the stems of trees, including, of course, the shields of animals, and the animals as it were, they were all employed by the traditional doctors who actually researched and perfected a lot of processes of healing the population. So we had nearly every profession. They were not decompartmentalized. They were not compartmentalized as it were in the present studies today. Somebody is in charge of otolaryngology, nose, ear, and eye. Another person is in charge of anatomy and all that. It was not so in pre-colonial Africa. Most of the traditional doctors were in charge of nearly everything about human being. So to that extent, the pre-colonial African societies were very wonderful, and people lived longer, died at long age. And what I discovered as a person today is that we began taking all kinds of chemicals as drugs, as medicine to prevent us from one bad ailment and the other. But in the process of consuming these chemicalized drugs, you also cause another effect in your body, which will require another chemical. And in that process, you are chemicalized all through. But the pre-colonial African traditional doctors made use of herbs, made use of leaves, and made use of stem of trees, of course, including animal skin. So those things were too natural that they never caused more problems in your body. Today, people are running back to China and will get disturbed when somebody comes from Finland that has no proper trees during what they call this bad weather they have in the whole of Europe and America. Some of the trees are withered off. But in our own, where our trees are there from January to December, they go there and bring what they call LV and package it, and we spend trillions here. Well, our psyche has not been liberated from colonialism. We call it in political studies neo-colonialism. And so, to this extent, we are so much denigrated, and even our so called sophisticated scholars, professors in the universities, and that fall prey to this kind of trap by Europeanization, by the neo-colonialists, and keep buying trees. I mean, something from they call it food supplement. They put it together in the countries where the trees are not even doing very well. But in our own, where the trees are fantastically growing very well, we have all the trees. Cures malaria. There are many of it. Even this vegetable we take, the thing we call abara. If you get the leaves, if somebody is lacking blood, just cook it. It's red, and if you drink it, the blood, in short, you will even have excess. The same thing with sweet potato. The same thing with ogo. And we eat these things every day. They solve our problems. Let me tell you, all of us would have gone, if not the fact that we are taking some of these leaves that have been countering all kinds of chemicalized body we've been carrying about. So the pre-colonial African medical was sophisticated in medicine. He was interested in curing us from the leaves. Admittedly, the later researches showed certain things which were not identified by Africans, like prostate, like some of. But the truth is that because of the kind of food our people were eating as at that time, those things never appeared because the leaves took care of them even before they got formed. So now that you have been taking all these chemicals, indomine and all those things, you don't know where they are produced. Because you are taking them, then they will wipe out all the good things our leaves do for us and bring all this. So all these ailments, and you go to the hospital for surgery and what have you. So we are not saying that the modern medicine should be condemned, but we are saying that our researchers, particularly those who are into pharmacology, yes, pharmacology, pharmacy, that is those who use herbs and leaves to form drugs. I still remember pharmacognosis, so that they can now go into what we have in our environment. Our greatest bane, particularly our scientific professors, is our inability to come to terms with our environment and be able to discover or rediscover what our people have been using to cure ailments before the white man came here. Without this, we are not stepping an inch. You don't find out that some of these pandemic, epidemic, and we are all caused by the white man in an attempt to create one thing or the other, or to exterminate the whole class, or kill the rest of the world. The world is politically divided into north and south. Those who are rich are in the north, and the rest of us who are struggling to survive are in the south. If you allow them, they will be really something, and the whole south will be wiped off so that they can come and share us. The same way they shared us in Berlin Conference of 1845, where they used pencil to share the whole of Africa and gave it to Europe, and the colonization took place. But what I'm only trying to say is that there is supposed to be a proper leadership, number one, because our leaders will be able to champion the policies that will bring total liberation, total independence, total, call it decolonization. And in the process, they will also be able to identify good things that we do here. During the war, the Ogbunigwe, that because the Biafran people used it to just say, well, Nigerian soldiers, they now felt that they shouldn't research in it. It's stupid of them. Because the faculty of engineering at the University of Nigeria, they were calling University of Biafra during the war, was able to come up with Ogbunigwe, which was an instrument of mass destruction. And when it became a flying missile, every other person got scared. And then there was an unholy alliance between both East and Western Europe. Enemies became friends overnight to crush Biafra. Soviet Union that had been antagonistic to ideological stand of United States, for once agreed with United States. The whole of Britain, the whole of Western Europe, Eastern Europe and North America agreed to crush Biafra using war. And the blacks, when the war ended, instead of employing the expertise of them, many of them were still alive, to purify what Nigerian military base has. They were unable to do that and stopped history. University of Nigeria was prevented from existing for 10 years after the war because they manufactured Ogbunigwe. This is the position. So now University of Nigeria has the high engineering. And the man that was at the center of the Ogbunigwe something is 94 years now. Wow. Many of those people that participated died, but there are some others. All you needed is a support, and you produce that. You wouldn't know that Americans have now produced those such missiles, and I will still show you a difference. Yes, we've seen that of America, Soviet Union, all this. They were all pointed, and when they get to where the destination, they will explode. But in the case of Biafra, it was like a bucket. They call it a Ojukwu bucket. And when it was released, listen, if it was released, as it was going, the farther it went, the wider it covered. So it is still tomorrow, it still remains a unique creation by the Biafran army. Wow. I even watched it last night when they were doing the analysis. So the further it goes, the wider it covers. Clean everything, including the bed of the air. And the real air itself will turn into burning and that. So that one was actually to save our people. But beyond this, there have been all kinds of discoveries. Well, now, not only in the Biafran enclave, many Igbos after Biafra are doing quite fine, and many other Nigerians. Some of them in the north, some of them in the west. What is the ability of our leadership to bring these things together, and so that we will have our indigenous and autochthonous economic, scientific, and social development and growth that will make us stand independent of and completely different from what is happening in both Western, Eastern Europe, and North America. So we are our own pain. And our leadership has not been properly focused.
Has not
We've
helped.
seen some things in terms of our leadership in Rwanda, who of course wanted to kill all themselves. All of them influenced by Western imperialism. Many people were killed. They nearly finished themselves. All the judges, all the lawyers, they now came home with tickets. They now begin to resolve conflicts through what they find in the villages. The process of settling disputes from the villages, they call their own kachacha, and it is now a system in peace studies and conflict resolution. And so they come in, they now record those things, and we make references to the code of what happened. That was what we failed to do. And today the courts will come here and confuse it. For 5 years, if we have a land dispute, before the land dispute decision is taken in court, those who started it would have all been buried. But we don't do that in our peace studies and conflict resolution. When the source of a conflict is removed, the conflict disappears.